I'm here for other children. I'm here because I care. I'm here because children everywhere are suffering, and because 40,000 people die each day from hunger. I'm here because those people are mostly children. We have got to understand that the poor are all around us, and we're ignoring them. We have got to understand that these deaths are preventable. We have got to understand that people in third world countries think and care and smile and cry just like us. We have got to understand that they are us. We are them. My dream is to stop hunger by the year 2000. My dream is to give the poor a chance. My dream is to save the 40,000 people who die each day. My dream can and will come true if we all look into the future and see the light that shines there.
Palestinians called for an international observer force that would stop the violence, but this action was blocked by Israel. Finally, a group of Palestinian and Israeli human rights activists together created the International Solidarity Movement, which has brought people from around the world of all ages and backgrounds to provide a nonviolent international presence to try to fill this need. Rachel Corrie, a 23-year-old American student, went to Gaza to join in these efforts, sending back emails to her parents.
I have been in Palestine for 2 weeks and 1 hour now, and I still have very few words to describe what I see. It is most difficult for me to think about what's going on here when I sit down to write back to the United States. Something about the virtual portal into luxury. I don't know if many of the children here have ever existed without tank shell holes in their walls, and the towers of an occupying army surveying them constantly from the near horizons. I think, although I'm not entirely sure, that even the smallest of these children understand that life is not like this everywhere.
It was Sunday afternoon in Charlotte, about noon actually, and I received a phone call, and my son-in-law, Kelly, was on the phone, and he asked if Craig was there. And something about the way he asked made me realize, I felt right away that something was wrong. And then I asked, why, Kelly? And he hesitated for a minute, and he said, we've had some very sad news. And then my daughter, Sarah, I could hear her in the background, and she got on the telephone, and she said, Mom, it's Rachel. And I think the first words out of my mouth then were, is she dead?
As an afterthought to all this rambling, I am in Rafah, a city of about 140,000 people, approximately 60% of whom are refugees, many of whom are twice or 3 times refugees. Today, as I walked on top of the rubble where homes once stood, Egyptian soldiers called to me from the other side of the border, "Go! Go!" because a tank was coming, and then waving and, "What's your name?" Something disturbing about this friendly curiosity. It reminded me of how much, to some degree, we are all kids, curious about other kids. Egyptian kids shouting at strange women wandering into the path of tanks. Palestinian kids shot from the tanks when they peek out from behind walls to see what's going on. International kids standing in front of tanks with banners. Israeli kids in the tanks anonymously, occasionally shouting and also occasionally waving. Many forced to be here, many just aggressive, shooting into the houses as we wander away. I've been having trouble accessing news about the outside world here, but I hear an escalation of war on Iraq is inevitable. There is a great deal of concern here about the reoccupation of Gaza. Gaza is reoccupied every day to various extents, but I think the fear is that the tanks will enter all the streets and remain here instead of entering some of the streets and then withdrawing after some hours or days to observe and shoot from the edges of the communities. If people aren't already thinking about the consequences of this war for the people of the entire region, then I hope you will start.
So I feel like what I'm witnessing here is a very systematic destruction of people's ability to survive. And that is incredibly horrifying. It's incredibly horrifying. Sometimes it takes a while for it to set in what is happening here, because I think many of the people here, they try to maintain what they can of their lives, and I don't know, maybe it has to do with protecting their children, that they try to be happy, joke with their children. So sometimes it takes time to it's hard to hold in your mind, you know, the complete reality of what's happening here. Sometimes I'm sitting down to dinner with people and I just realize that that there is a massive military machine surrounding them and trying to kill these people that I'm having dinner with, these families that I'm sitting down to eat with, and who are being very generous and kind to me, and their children here who are incredibly threatened, living lives that no child ever should have to live. And so I feel a lot of horror, really. I feel a lot of horror about the situation.
And as Rachel wrote, you can't really understand this place until you come. And even then, you don't really understand it. She said, I don't understand it because I have the money to buy water and I have the freedom to leave. These people don't.
I think this trip I was able to take in some ways more. The other, we've been here twice before, and for different reasons. Those were both really emotional and kind of traumatic visits at times. Parts of it were. But I was struck kind of surprised, even as we were coming in from the crossing in Rafah, about the land, the farmland, how much farmland I was seeing, and the sheep. And there's a way of life here. People live here, even though they are under, you know, just unbelievable pressures and such terrible things happening day to day to day. People killed nearly every day. But people live here, and I was struck by that much more. The women out taking care of the fields, the people herding the sheep and the goats, and there's in the rural areas, the families who are, a family life is very important, and people get together and they enjoy each other and they sustain each other. So through the hardship, there's a great deal of life happening here. And I think I heard John Ging say, this is a civilized people, and I don't remember the end of his comment, but something about in a prison, I believe in a prison. And for me, this is a civilized people with tremendous forces working against them to really, as Rachel said, to erase them. And I believe that if we can shift that so that there are more forces working to, in solidarity with the people of Palestine to build the lives that they want, there's all the potential for that to happen.
قليل من الناس اللي بتعمل أمثال ريتشر قليل يعني.
Very few people live up to Rachel's example. Honestly, even today I remember her. I can see her, slender, fair, beautiful, wearing a kufiya. She was graceful and so courageous, never afraid. My house was near an Israeli watchtower, near the wall. She'd be there with her megaphone shouting, "Please don't fire. There are children here." She had an open spirit, a pure spirit. She was a great person, irreplaceable. Rachel's life should be recorded in history.